Have you ever noticed that the very thing you criticize most in others somehow shows up in your own life? The person who condemns greed finds themselves hoarding. The one who judges others for being angry becomes consumed with rage. Why does this happen? My friend, I'm going to share with you one of the most profound laws of the subconscious mind, a law that explains why we literally become what we condemn. And once you understand this hidden principle, you'll never look at judgment the same way again. This isn't psychology. This is the actual mechanics of how your deeper mind operates. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will transform how you think, speak, and live. My friend, perhaps you've noticed patterns in your life that don't make sense. You criticize people who are dishonest, yet somehow you keep attracting liars. You judge those who are poor stewards of money, yet your finances never improve. You condemn people for being late, yet you find yourself increasingly disorganized. You look at failed marriages and think, I would never do that, yet you're repeating the same patterns. This is not coincidence. This is law. The law of subconscious reflection. Let me tell you what you're going to gain from watching this teaching all the way through. You're going to understand exactly why you attract what you don't want despite your best efforts. You're going to see clearly why the traits you criticize keep appearing in your life. You're going to learn how to break the exhausting cycle of judgment and negativity. And most importantly, you're going to discover how to stop becoming a hypocrite, manifesting the very things you've condemned. For over 40 years, I've counseled thousands of people from every background, every religion, every walk of life. And I've seen this law operate with absolute precision. The businessman who condemns his competitor's greed becomes greedy himself. The wife who judges her husband's anger becomes consumed with rage. The parent who criticizes their child's laziness finds themselves unmotivated. This isn't punishment from God. This is simply how your subconscious mind works. And once you understand it, you have the power to change everything. Right now, you may be trapped in a cycle of judgment and manifestation. You see something you don't like, you condemn it, and then mysteriously it appears in your experience. You feel like a victim of circumstance, wondering why life keeps dealing you the same cards. But by the end of this teaching, you'll understand the exact mechanism that creates this pattern. More importantly, you'll know how to reverse it. Instead of becoming what you condemn, you'll learn to become what you bless. Instead of attracting what you judge, you'll magnetize what you appreciate. This is the transformation available to you today. Now, many people think that if they just think positive, or ignore the negative, everything will improve. But that's not enough. Others believe that judgment is necessary, that we must criticize wrong to establish right. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how consciousness works. Your subconscious mind doesn't judge between good and evil, right and wrong. It simply accepts the impression you give it. When you focus intensely on something, even in condemnation, you are feeding it with emotional energy and mental attention, and whatever you feed grows in your experience. This teaching isn't about morality or religion, though it aligns with the deepest spiritual truths. This is about the science of mind. I'm going to show you the psychological and spiritual mechanism that causes this phenomenon. You'll understand why Jesus said, "Judge not lest ye be judged," why the Buddha taught about the mirror of karma, why every great spiritual tradition warns against criticism and condemnation. They all understood this hidden law, and today, you will too. I share this with you because I care about your happiness and success. I've seen too many good people sabotage their own lives through the habit of judgment. I've watched brilliant minds become bitter. I've seen generous hearts become hardened. And it always begins the same way, with criticism, condemnation, and judgment of others. But here's the beautiful truth. The moment you understand this law, you can begin to change, right now, today, in this very moment. You don't have to remain trapped. Freedom is available to you. By the time we finish, you'll have three things. First, a clear understanding of how the subconscious creates your reality based on your dominant impressions. Second, practical techniques to stop the cycle of condemnation and reflection. And third, a new way of seeing the world and people, one that liberates you and transforms your entire experience. This isn't just information. This is transformation. So let's begin. Let me share with you several true accounts that will illuminate this principle. As I tell you these stories, watch for the pattern. Notice how the very thing that was condemned became the lived reality. And ask yourself, where might this be operating in my own life? Years ago, I knew a minister, a good man, truly devoted to his faith. But he had one particular fixation. He preached constantly against adultery and sexual immorality, week after week, sermon after sermon. He would thunder from the pulpit about the evils of unfaithfulness. He would point to public figures who had fallen. He would condemn in the strongest terms anyone who strayed from marital fidelity. His congregation thought him righteous. His peers considered him a pillar of moral authority. But I watched something happen over the years. This minister became increasingly obsessed with the subject. He would read news stories about scandals. He would discuss at length the failures of others. His mind was constantly dwelling on the very thing he condemned. And here's what he didn't understand. His subconscious mind was receiving a constant impression of adultery, unfaithfulness, and sexual temptation. Then one day, the inevitable happened. This minister, this man of God who had condemned others so harshly, was discovered in an affair with a woman in his congregation. The scandal destroyed his ministry, his marriage, his reputation. When he came to me, broken and confused, he kept saying, "How did this happen? I hate adultery. I preached against it my entire life. How did I become the very thing I despised?" I explained to him this law. His subconscious mind had been saturated with images, thoughts, and emotions about infidelity. He had given it more attention, more emotional energy, more mental focus than almost anything else in his life. And his subconscious, which knows no morality, simply said, "This must be important to you. This must be what you want to experience." And it created the circumstances, the temptation, and ultimately the fall. You see, my friend, the subconscious doesn't hear your condemnation. It only hears your focus. When this minister thought about adultery constantly, even to condemn it, he was impressing his deeper mind with the subject of adultery. He was emotionally charged about it, which made the impression even stronger. If he had simply taught about love, faithfulness, and marital harmony, if he had focused on what he wanted rather than what he feared, his life would have been completely different. This is a crucial point. Whatever you give your sustained attention to, you impress upon your subconscious, and your subconscious must express what is impressed upon it. This is law. This is principle. This is how mind works. The beautiful end to this story is that once the minister understood this law, he began to rebuild his life. He stopped condemning others. He stopped focusing on sin and failure. He began to meditate on forgiveness, redemption, and divine love. And gradually his life transformed. He became more compassionate, more understanding, more at peace. He learned that the path to righteousness is not through judging evil, but through embodying good. Now let me tell you about a woman who came to see me in deep distress. She was in her late 30s, and she had just realized something that shook her to her core. "Dr. Murphy," she said, "I've become my mother, and I swore I never would." I asked her to tell me more. She explained that her mother had been critical, controlling, and emotionally cold. Growing up, this woman had experienced great pain from her mother's behavior. She had made a vow to herself, "I will never be like her. I will be different. I will be better." And yet, here she was, looking at her own children, and seeing in their eyes the same pain she had felt. She was critical of everything they did. She controlled their every move. She had become emotionally distant. The very patterns she had condemned in her mother were now expressing through her own life. As we talked, I discovered something crucial. This woman had spent decades thinking about her mother's flaws. She would replay conversations in her mind. She would tell friends stories about how terrible her mother was. She would analyze every fault, every failure, every wound. Her entire identity was built around being not like my mother. But here's what she didn't realize. By constantly focusing on her mother's negative traits, even in condemnation, she was impressing those exact patterns on her subconscious mind. Your subconscious, you see, doesn't understand negation. When you say, I will not be controlling like my mother, your subconscious hears controlling mother. This is important. When you think, I hate how critical she was, your deeper mind receives the impression of critical. The hate doesn't protect you. The not doesn't shield you. Your subconscious simply absorbs the dominant impression. This woman wept in my office. I've wasted my whole life trying not to be something, and in doing so I became it. My children are suffering the way I suffered. How do I stop this? How do I break this cycle? I said to her what I'm saying to you now. The cycle breaks the moment you stop condemning and start blessing. She needed to forgive her mother. Not for her mother's sake, but for her own freedom. She needed to stop rehearsing her mother's faults and start impressing her subconscious with the qualities she wanted to embody. Patience, warmth, acceptance, love. I gave her a specific practice. Every night before sleep, instead of thinking about what she didn't want to be, she would imagine herself as the mother she wanted to be. She would see herself speaking kindly to her children. She would feel the warmth of her own love. She would hear their laughter. She would fall asleep with these positive impressions. Within months, everything changed. Her children noticed it first. Mom, you're different, they said. You're nicer now. She reported to me that the old patterns, the criticism, the control, the coldness, they simply began to dissolve. Not through willpower, not through trying harder, but through changing the impression on her subconscious mind. The lesson here, my friend, is profound. You cannot become free by focusing on what you don't want. You only become free by impressing your deeper mind with what you do want. Stop condemning the negative, start claiming the positive. This is the way of transformation. Let me tell you about a businessman I once counseled who was consumed with thoughts about his competitor. This competitor, he believed, was unethical, dishonest, and ruthless. He lies to customers, the man would say. He cuts corners. He steals my ideas. He's everything that's wrong with business today. Every morning, this man would check what his competitor was doing. Every evening he would complain to his wife about the competitor's latest transgression. His mind was occupied more with his competitor than with his own business. He thought he was being vigilant. He thought he was protecting himself, but he was actually destroying himself. What do you think happened? Within 2 years, this man's own business was investigated for unethical practices. Employees reported that he had begun cutting corners himself. Customers complained that he was dishonest. Everything he had condemned in his competitor, he had manifested in his own life. When he came to me, after nearly losing everything, he was in complete denial. But I'm not like him, he insisted. I was just trying to expose what he was doing wrong. I had to explain to him this difficult truth. Your subconscious mind doesn't care about your intentions, it only responds to your impressions. By thinking constantly about dishonesty, unethical behavior, and ruthlessness, even to condemn it, he had impressed these very qualities on his deeper mind, and his deeper mind, faithful and obedient, had expressed them in his experience. This is a hard teaching for many people to accept. They want to believe that their judgment protects them. They want to think that condemning evil keeps them safe from it. But the opposite is true. Judgment binds you to the thing you judge. Condemnation creates a link between you and what you condemn. The businessman learned this truth the hard way. But once he understood it, he made a profound change. He stopped thinking about his competitor entirely. He stopped checking on him, talking about him, judging him. Instead, he began to focus on building his own business with integrity, honesty, and excellence. He impressed his subconscious with positive qualities. And his business was transformed. Not only did it recover, but it flourished beyond his previous success. The beautiful irony is that once he stopped condemning his competitor stopped being a problem. The universe has a way of balancing things when you step out of judgment. Your freedom doesn't come from proving others wrong. It comes from embodying what is right. Remember this always. Let me tell you about a school teacher I once knew. She was brilliant, capable, and dedicated to her students. But she carried a deep resentment toward people she considered lazy. She would often say, I can't stand people who don't pull their weight. I despise laziness. Nothing bothers me more than someone who doesn't try. She would point out lazy colleagues. She would complain about lazy parents who didn't help their children. She would criticize students who, in her view, weren't working hard enough. Her whole life was organized around the condemnation of laziness, and she prided herself on being different, on being hardworking, disciplined, and responsible. But then something happened that shocked everyone who knew her. She developed a chronic illness, one that left her bedridden and unable to work. For months she lay in bed, unable to do the things she valued most. She felt useless, lazy, and unproductive. The very thing she had condemned most harshly was now her daily experience. When she called me, she was in despair. "Dr. Murphy, why is God punishing me? I've always worked hard. I've always done my best. Why am I being forced into this state I despise?" I said to her gently, "God isn't punishing you, my dear. Your own mind has created this experience. For years you've been intensely focused on laziness, even in condemnation. Your subconscious has been saturated with images of inactivity, of not working, of being unproductive. You've given it so much attention that it has manifested in your experience." She was resistant at first, as many people are. But gradually she began to understand. She realized that her harsh judgment of others had been a form of fear that she herself might become lazy, might fail, might not be enough. And that fear, that constant mental dwelling on the subject, had impressed her subconscious mind so deeply that it eventually expressed as her physical reality. I taught her a new way. Instead of condemning laziness, she began to bless activity and health. Instead of criticizing others, she began to send them thoughts of success and energy. Instead of focusing on what she feared, she impressed her mind with what she desired: vitality, strength, productivity, health, and slowly, miraculously to her but scientifically to those who understand these laws, her health improved. She recovered. She returned to teaching. But she was a different person. She told me later, "I used to think judgment made me better than others. Now I understand it was making me sick. When I stopped condemning, I started healing." My friend, this is the power of this law. It operates whether you believe in it or not. It operates whether you understand it or not. But once you do understand it, you have the key to transform any area of your life. A father came to me once, furious about his teenage son. "My son is rebellious, disrespectful, and disobedient," he said. "He never listens. He always challenges my authority. He's exactly like those punk kids I see on the street, the ones I've always condemned." I listened as this father listed all the ways his son was failing. But as he spoke, I noticed something interesting. This father was absolutely obsessed with rebellion. He would watch the news and point out rebellious youth. He would tell stories about disrespectful children he'd seen. He would predict that kids these days would grow up to be failures. His mind was constantly occupied with the subject of rebellion and disobedience. I asked him a simple question. "How much time do you spend thinking about the kind of son you want versus the kind of son you don't want?" He was silent. Then he admitted, "I spend all my time worrying about what he's becoming and almost no time imagining what he could be." There it was. This father's subconscious mind, which influences not only his own behavior but also the atmosphere of his home and his interactions with his son, was saturated with images of rebellion. He was afraid of it, he condemned it, he was constantly vigilant against it. And what happened? He was creating the exact environment that would produce it. You see, when you focus intensely on what you don't want your child to become, you're actually energizing that possibility. Your subconscious mind creates according to your dominant mental impressions. But more than that, your attitude affects your child. When this father looked at his son, he saw a rebel. He expected disobedience. He was waiting for disrespect. And his son, sensing this expectation, lived up to it. Children are incredibly sensitive to the mental atmosphere around them. They respond to what you expect, not what you demand. If you expect rebellion, you'll get rebellion. If you expect failure, you'll see failure. But if you expect the best, if you see the potential and the divinity in your child, They will rise to meet that expectation. I gave this father a practice that changed everything. Every night before sleep, he was to sit quietly and imagine his son as he wanted him to be, not as he feared he was becoming, but as he deeply desired him to be. He was to see his son confident, respectful, successful, and happy. He was to feel the pride and love of having such a son. He was to fall asleep with this positive impression. At first the father resisted. "But that's not reality," he said. "My son is rebellious. I can't just pretend he's not." I explained that he wasn't pretending, he was impressing. He was giving his subconscious mind a new blueprint. And as his subconscious changed, his attitude would change, his behavior would change, and the entire dynamic with his son would change. Within weeks, the father reported something amazing. "My son is different," he said. But as we talked, I helped him see the truth. His son hadn't changed, he had. He had stopped expecting rebellion and started seeing potential. He had stopped condemning and started blessing. And his son, responding to this new atmosphere, began to transform. The boy started doing better in school. He became more communicative. The anger and defiance began to dissolve. The father told me, weeping, "I almost destroyed my relationship with my son through my constant judgment and fear. Now I see him as he truly is, a good young man finding his way." This story teaches us something profound about all relationships. What you see in others, you strengthen. What you condemn in others, you create. But what you bless in others, you multiply. If you want to change someone else, you must first change your own consciousness about them. Stop focusing on their faults. Stop rehearsing their failures. Start seeing their potential. Start blessing their journey. And watch what happens. This is not wishful thinking, this is the scientific application of mental and spiritual law. Now, my friend, these stories illustrate a profound principle. But let's go deeper. Let's explore the actual mechanism behind this law. Why does condemnation create what we condemn? How does the subconscious mind work? And most importantly, how can we use this understanding to transform our lives? First, you must understand what your subconscious mind is and how it functions. Your subconscious is the builder of your body and the maintainer of all your vital functions. It never sleeps. It never rests. It is always working, always creating, always expressing. But here is the crucial point. Your subconscious mind is completely impersonal. It has no ability to reject. It cannot reason inductively like your conscious mind. It simply accepts what you impress upon it and brings it into expression. Think of your subconscious as the most fertile soil imaginable. Whatever seed you plant in it will grow. It doesn't judge whether the seed is a flower or a weed. It doesn't ask whether you really want what you're planting. It simply accepts the seed and produces the fruit. Your conscious mind is the gardener. Your thoughts, feelings, and mental images are the seeds, and what you're experiencing in your life right now is the harvest of what you've been planting. When you condemn something, when you judge another person harshly, you are creating a strong emotional and mental impression. You're thinking about it. You're feeling strongly about it. You're giving it attention and energy. And your subconscious receives all of this as an impression. It doesn't hear your condemnation. It doesn't understand that you don't want this thing. It only registers this is important to this person. They're giving it great attention and emotion. I must create circumstances related to this. This is why Jesus taught judge not lest you be judged. He wasn't threatening punishment from an external God. He was explaining a law of mind. When you judge, you create a mental impression, and that impression must be expressed in your experience. You will be judged, not by God, but by your own subconscious mind bringing back to you what you have impressed upon it. Let me give you several ways to understand this. From a psychological perspective, what you focus on, you become. Carl Jung called this the shadow. The qualities you condemn most harshly in others are often the very qualities you're suppressing in yourself. By condemning them externally, you're actually strengthening them internally. From a spiritual perspective, there is only one mind, one consciousness. When you judge another, You're actually judging an aspect of yourself because we're all connected in the one. What you do to another, you do to yourself. This is the mystical meaning of love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor is yourself in a different form. From a practical perspective, your mental habits create your character, and your character creates your destiny. If your habit is judgment and condemnation, you're building a character of criticism, negativity, and fear, and that character will inevitably express as negative circumstances in your life. The great philosophers understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it. Your thoughts, especially your dominant emotionally charged thoughts, are creating your reality moment by moment. When you condemn, you're not protecting yourself from what you condemn. You're actually invoking it into your experience." This is a hard teaching for the ego to accept. The ego wants to believe that judgment makes us superior, that condemnation keeps us safe, that criticism protects us. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Judgment binds us. Condemnation creates. Criticism manifests. The only true protection is to bless, to forgive, to see good, and to think about what we want rather than what we fear. There is a law I call the law of mental equivalence. It states this: you will always experience the mental equivalent of what you habitually contemplate. Your outer world is always a perfect reflection of your inner world. Your life circumstances are the mirror of your consciousness. This isn't poetry, this is principle. When you understand this law, you understand why condemnation is so dangerous. If you constantly contemplate, even in judgment, dishonesty, you will experience dishonesty. If you habitually think about, even to condemn, poverty, you will experience lack. If your mind dwells on, even in criticism, illness, you will manifest disease. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between thoughts you're accepting and thoughts you're rejecting. It only knows what you're giving your attention to. This is why you must become extraordinarily careful about what you allow to occupy your mind. You're not just thinking innocent thoughts. You're actually creating impressions on your subconscious, and those impressions become your reality. Let me give you a practical example. Suppose you see a news story about crime. If you react with fear and condemnation, the world is getting so dangerous, people are so evil, you've just impressed your subconscious with danger and evil. Your subconscious will now work to create circumstances that match that impression. You might become more fearful. You might attract negative experiences. You might even become a victim of what you feared. But suppose instead you react with compassion and faith. I send love to all involved. I know that divine order is being established. I am safe, guided, and protected. Now you've impressed your subconscious with safety, love, and divine order. And that will be your experience. The law of mental equivalence explains so much that seems mysterious. Why do some people always have drama in their lives? Because they habitually contemplate drama. Why do some people constantly face betrayal? Because they expect betrayal and are always looking for it. Why do some people live in lack while others prosper? Because their mental equivalents are different. You can change your entire life by changing your mental equivalents. Instead of contemplating what's wrong with the world, contemplate what's right. Instead of focusing on what you fear, focus on what you desire. Instead of condemning what you hate, bless what you love. This simple shift in mental attention will transform everything. But I must warn you, this law is impersonal and impartial. It works for everyone, all the time, whether they know about it or not. You cannot escape it. You cannot negotiate with it. You cannot make exceptions. If you condemn, you will experience what you condemn. If you bless, you will experience what you bless. This is law. This is principle. This is truth. Therefore, guard your mind as you would guard your life, because your mind is creating your life. Every thought is a seed. Every emotion is water and fertilizer. Every mental image is a blueprint. And your subconscious is faithfully building whatever structure you're designing with your thoughts. Let me teach you about the two forces that impress your subconscious most powerfully: attention and emotion. When you give sustained attention to something, anything, you're telling your subconscious, this is important, this matters. Create more of this. And when you add emotion to that attention, you multiply the impression exponentially. This is why condemnation is so dangerous. When you judge someone, you're not just casually noticing something, you're giving it focused attention. You're thinking about it, talking about it, analyzing it, and you're doing so with strong emotion, anger, disgust, fear, righteousness. This combination of attention and emotion creates a deep, powerful impression on your subconscious mind. Your subconscious cannot distinguish between reality and imagination. It cannot tell the difference between something happening to you and something you're vividly imagining. This is why worry is so destructive. You're imagining negative outcomes with emotion, and your subconscious accepts these images as instructions. Similarly, when you condemn someone else's behavior, you're creating mental movies of that behavior. You're running these movies in your mind with emotional charge, and your subconscious is recording every frame. It's saying, I see. This is what we're focusing on. This is what we're feeling strongly about. I'll create circumstances that match this pattern. Modern neuroscience has discovered what I've been teaching for decades. Your brain doesn't distinguish between experienced events and vividly imagined ones. The same neural pathways fire whether you're actually experiencing something or intensely imagining it. When you condemn another person's anger, your brain is processing anger. When you judge someone's dishonesty, your brain is engaging with dishonesty. You're literally training your mind and your subconscious in the very qualities you claim to despise. This is why the ancient wisdom traditions taught meditation and mindfulness. They understood that mastery of attention is mastery of life. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows, your life grows. If your attention is constantly on what's wrong, even in condemnation, your life will grow in the direction of wrongness. Now emotion is the language of the subconscious. Your subconscious responds most powerfully to feelings. A thought, without emotion, is like a seed without water. It has little power to grow. But a thought charged with emotion is like a seed planted in fertilized soil with abundant water. It must grow and produce fruit. This is why you can think casually about something 1,000 times with little effect, but think about it once with intense emotion and create a powerful change. When you condemn someone with anger, fear, or disgust, you're impressing your subconscious with tremendous force. That emotional charge ensures that the impression will be deep and the manifestation will be strong. Therefore, my friend, you must learn to discipline both your attention and your emotions. Notice when you're giving sustained attention to something negative. Catch yourself when you're dwelling on what you don't want. And especially, be aware of when you're combining attention with strong negative emotion, because that's when you're doing your most powerful creative work, though in a destructive direction. The good news is that this same principle works for positive creation. When you give sustained attention to what you desire with positive emotion, you impress your subconscious powerfully in a beneficial direction. When you contemplate health with feeling, you create health. When you focus on prosperity with joy, you manifest abundance. When you think about love with warmth, you attract loving relationships. The law works both ways. Use it wisely. There's a principle I want you to understand deeply. The world is a mirror. Every person you meet, every situation you encounter, is reflecting back to you your own consciousness. This is one of the most profound spiritual truths ever taught. And once you understand it, your entire life changes. When you look at another person and see faults, you're actually seeing your own inner state reflected back to you. A peaceful person looks at the world and sees peace. An angry person looks at the same world and sees conflict. A loving person sees love everywhere. A fearful person sees danger constantly. The world hasn't changed. Consciousness has changed, and therefore perception has changed. This is why Jesus taught. Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye but don't notice the log in your own eye? He was explaining the mirror principle. What bothers you most about others is usually what you haven't resolved in yourself. What you judge harshest in others is often what you fear most in yourself. I've seen this countless times. The person who constantly criticizes others for being controlling is usually deeply controlling themselves, but unconscious of it. The person who condemns greed is often stingy and fearful about money. The person who judges others for being prideful is usually filled with their own pride, the pride of moral superiority. This isn't accusation. This is diagnosis. Once you understand that your judgments reveal your own inner state, you can use them as a tool for self-awareness and growth. The mystics of all traditions understood this. The Sufis taught the world is a mirror. What looks out looks in. The Buddhists speak of dependent origination, all things arising together, nothing separate. The Hindus teach Maya, the illusion that we are separate from what we see. And Jesus summarized it perfectly, as within so without. You are not a separate being, observing an objective world. You are consciousness, and the world is your own consciousness projected outward. When you condemn something out there, you're actually condemning something within your own consciousness. And that condemnation, that judgment, that rejection, it all comes back to you. The mirror reflects perfectly. But here's the liberation in this teaching. If the world is your mirror, then you can change your world by changing yourself. You don't have to wait for others to change. You don't have to fix the world. You only have to transform your own consciousness. And your entire experience of the world transforms. When you stop condemning others, you're actually releasing condemnation of yourself. When you forgive others, you're actually forgiving yourself. When you bless others, you're actually blessing yourself. Because there is no other, there is only the one appearing as many. Every person is a reflection of some aspect of your own consciousness. So here's a practice that will revolutionize your life. Whenever you find yourself judging someone, stop and ask, what is this showing me about myself? Where is this quality living in me? What am I being called to heal or transform within my own consciousness? If someone's anger bothers you, look at your own relationship with anger. If someone's success makes you resentful, examine your own beliefs about success and worthiness. If someone's confidence seems like arrogance, explore your own relationship with confidence. Use every judgment as a mirror to see yourself more clearly. This is the path to freedom. Now I know what some of you are thinking. But Dr. Murphy, if I can't judge, how do I protect myself? How do I make wise decisions? Don't I need to discern between good and bad, right and wrong? This is an important question. And the answer lies in understanding the difference between discernment and judgment. Discernment is wisdom. Judgment is condemnation. Discernment observes without emotional charge. Judgment condemns with strong negative emotion. Discernment says this person's behavior isn't aligned with integrity, so I'll choose not to do business with them. Judgment says this person is evil, dishonest and terrible. They're everything wrong with the world. Do you see the difference? Discernment is practical wisdom that helps you make good choices without impressing your subconscious with negativity. You can recognize that someone is dishonest without dwelling on their dishonesty, without talking about it constantly, without making it a subject of intense emotional focus. You simply recognize it and make an appropriate decision. But judgment goes far beyond discernment. Judgment rehearses the fault. It talks about it. It becomes emotionally invested in condemning it. It creates mental movies about it. It tells stories about it. And all of this activity impresses your subconscious mind powerfully. Jesus exercised perfect discernment. He recognized the Pharisees' hypocrisy. He saw the money changers' greed. He understood human nature deeply, but he didn't condemn, he blessed. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He discerned the situation but responded with love and wisdom, not judgment and condemnation. So you can absolutely protect yourself, make wise choices, and recognize what serves you and what doesn't, all without condemning. Here's how. When you encounter something or someone that doesn't align with your good, simply observe it neutrally. Say to yourself, this isn't for me. I choose something different. Then immediately turn your attention to what you do want. Don't dwell on the negative. Don't rehearse it. Don't talk about it extensively. Don't make it your focus. Just acknowledge it briefly and redirect your attention. The key is emotional detachment. You can observe that a stove is hot without putting your hand on it. You don't need to condemn the stove. Write an essay about how terrible hot stoves are. or spend hours thinking about people who've been burned. You simply recognize hot stove and stay away. This is discernment. But if you were to become emotionally obsessed with hot stoves, constantly thinking about them, condemning people who make them, dwelling on burn injuries, you would be impressing your subconscious with burns and danger and heat. And by the law we've been discussing, you might actually manifest a burn in your life. This is judgment, creating what it condemns. The Buddha taught the middle way. Jesus taught to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. Both were teaching this same principle. Use wisdom and discernment in practical matters, but maintain a consciousness of love, compassion, and non-judgment. See clearly, but bless freely. Recognize truth, but condemn not. Protect yourself wisely, but forgive completely. This is mastery. This is spiritual maturity. This is how you navigate the world, without becoming entangled in the negative patterns that destroy so many lives. Discern wisely, but never condemn. Choose carefully, but always bless. Now let me teach you the opposite principle, the creative power of blessing. If condemnation creates what we condemn, then blessing creates what we bless. This is the positive application of everything we've been learning. When you bless something or someone, you're impressing your subconscious with that quality or condition. And your subconscious must express what you impress upon it. To bless means to speak well of, to wish well, to see the good. When you bless another person, you're not pretending their faults don't exist. You're choosing to focus on their potential, their divinity, their highest possibility, and in doing so, you're impressing your own subconscious with these higher qualities. Here's what happens when you bless. First, you lift your own consciousness to a higher vibration. You can't genuinely bless while in a state of anger, fear, or resentment. To truly bless, you must access love, compassion, or at least goodwill. This shift in your emotional state immediately affects your subconscious impressions. Second, when you bless another person, you're seeing them as God sees them, as divine beings with infinite potential. This high vision actually helps them. There's a transmission that occurs. Your consciousness of their good empowers their consciousness of their own good. This is why Jesus could heal. He saw people not as sick but as perfect spiritual beings. His consciousness lifted theirs. Third, and most importantly for our purposes, when you bless others, you're programming your own subconscious with the qualities you're blessing. If you bless another person's prosperity, you're impressing prosperity on your subconscious. If you bless their health, you're creating health consciousness in yourself. If you bless their success, you're building success patterns in your own deeper mind. This is the true meaning of love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Jesus wasn't giving a moral command, he was teaching a scientific principle. When you bless your enemies, you're not doing it for their sake, though it helps them. You're doing it for your own sake. You're refusing to impress your subconscious with the negativity they represent. You're choosing to remain in a high consciousness regardless of their behavior. St. Paul understood this when he wrote, "Bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse." He knew that cursing, condemning, would only harm the one doing the cursing. The curse would come back to the cursor. But blessing would elevate and protect the one offering the blessing. Let me give you a practice that will transform your life. For the next 30 days, bless everyone you meet and everything you encounter. When you see someone who would normally trigger your judgment, stop and silently bless them. Say, "I bless you with peace. I bless you with wisdom. I bless you with divine guidance." When you encounter a situation that would normally cause you to complain, bless it instead. "I bless this situation with divine order. I bless everyone involved with wisdom and harmony." When you hear news that would normally make you condemn, bless instead. "I bless this world with healing. I bless all involved with light and love." Watch what happens. Within 30 days, your entire life will shift. Not because the world changed, but because your consciousness changed. And as your consciousness changes, your experience must change. Blessing is the highest form of prayer. It's an acknowledgement of the good that already exists in potential. It's an invocation of the divine into manifestation. When you bless, you're actually calling forth the highest possibility. You're speaking life, not death. Light, not darkness. Good, not evil. And here's the beautiful truth. You cannot genuinely bless another without being blessed yourself. The blessing flows through you first. Before it reaches them, it saturates your own consciousness. This is why the most blessed people are those who bless most freely. They're not blessed because they're lucky. They're blessed because they're constantly impressing their subconscious minds with blessings. Now let's talk about how to break free from the cycle of condemnation. Many of you listening have been trapped in patterns of judgment for years, perhaps your entire life. You've been condemning yourself, condemning others, condemning circumstances. And as a result, you've been manifesting the very things you condemn. How do you break this cycle? The first step is awareness. You cannot change what you're not aware of. So begin to notice your judgments. Watch your thoughts. Listen to your words. Pay attention to your conversations. How often do you criticize? How much do you complain? When do you condemn? Simply become aware, without judging yourself for judging. Just notice the pattern. This is crucial. As you become aware of your judgmental patterns, do not condemn yourself for being judgmental. If you do, you're just adding another layer of condemnation. You're judging yourself for judging, which only strengthens the pattern. Instead, simply observe with compassionate awareness. Ah, there's a judgment. Interesting. I see that pattern operating. I had a student once who, when she discovered this teaching, became horrified at how much she judged. She said, "Dr. Murphy, I'm terrible. I judge everything and everyone. I'm the most judgmental person alive." I had to smile and say, "My dear, you're now judging yourself for being judgmental. Stop. Just observe. Just notice. Be gentle with yourself. As you learn a new way, the second step is to understand why you judge. Most condemnation comes from fear. We judge what we fear. We condemn what threatens us. We criticize what makes us feel insecure. If you judge people for being successful, you probably fear that you're not successful enough. If you condemn people for being dishonest, you probably fear being deceived. If you criticize people for being selfish, you probably fear not getting what you need. When you understand that judgment is fear, you can address the real issue. Instead of condemning the person or situation, you can work on healing your own fear. You can impress your subconscious with safety, security, and confidence. You can affirm, "I am divinely guided and protected. All my needs are met. I am safe." As your fear dissolves, your need to judge dissolves with it. The third step is substitution. You cannot just stop judging, you must replace judgment with something else. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you try to create a blank mind, the old patterns will simply return. Instead, you must actively substitute blessing for condemnation, appreciation for criticism, compassion for judgment. Here's how. Every time you catch yourself judging, immediately substitute a blessing. If you think that person is so selfish, immediately counter with "I bless that person with generosity and love." If you think this situation is terrible, immediately say "I bless this situation with divine order and harmony." At first, this will feel mechanical, even insincere. That's fine. You're training your mind, creating new neural pathways, establishing new patterns. Keep practicing. With repetition, the new pattern becomes natural, automatic, and genuine. The fourth step is the evening review. Every night before sleep, review your day. Notice when you judged and when you blessed. But don't review to condemn yourself. Review to learn and to reprogram. When you remember a judgment, mentally replay the scene with blessing instead. See yourself responding with compassion rather than criticism. Feel how you would have felt blessing rather than condemning. This evening review serves two purposes. First, it increases your awareness, making you more conscious of your patterns. Second, it impresses your subconscious with the new desired pattern. Remember, your subconscious doesn't distinguish between actual experience and vivid imagination. When you replay a scene with a different response, you're actually creating a new memory pattern, a new way of being. The fifth step is affirmation. Create specific affirmations that counter your judging patterns and impress your subconscious with new truths. Here are some powerful ones. I see the good in everyone I meet. I look for and find the divine in all people and situations. I release all judgment and condemnation. I bless all beings with love, peace, and harmony. Where I would criticize, I choose to appreciate. Where I would condemn, I choose to bless. I am free from the need to judge. I see through the eyes of love and compassion. Repeat these affirmations daily, especially before sleep. Say them with feeling, with conviction, with faith. As you do, you're literally reprogramming your subconscious mind, creating new patterns of thought and response. The sixth step is forgiveness. You must forgive yourself for all the judgments you've made. You must forgive yourself for the harm your condemnation has caused, both to yourself and others. And you must forgive others, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free. Forgiveness is not about condoning wrong behavior. It's about releasing the emotional charge, the resentment, the story that keeps you bound. When you forgive, you're cutting the cord that ties you to the negative pattern. You're saying, I release this. I let it go. I am free. Here's a simple forgiveness practice. Think of someone you've judged harshly. See them in your mind. Then say, I forgive you completely. I release you to your highest good. I bless you with peace and harmony. We are both free. Feel the release. Feel the freedom. This is forgiveness, and it will transform your life. The seventh step is ongoing vigilance. Breaking the cycle of condemnation is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice, a lifelong journey. You must remain alert to the tendency to judge. You must catch yourself quickly when the old patterns arise. You must consistently choose blessing over condemnation. But here's the encouraging news. It gets easier with practice. After weeks and months of conscious substitution, the new pattern becomes habitual. Blessing becomes your natural response. Compassion becomes your default setting. And you'll discover that life becomes easier. Relationships become richer, and your circumstances improve dramatically. All because you changed one thing: your habit of condemnation. My friend, I promise you this. If you follow these steps faithfully, if you commit to breaking the cycle of condemnation, you will be free. Free from the patterns that have held you captive. Free from manifesting what you fear. Free to create what you truly desire. This is not theory, this is tested truth. Thousands have proven it, you can prove it too. Now you understand the principle. You've seen it in action through stories. You've learned the deeper mechanics through these lessons. But understanding alone is not enough. You must apply these truths. You must practice these principles. So let me give you specific practical exercises that will transform your consciousness and therefore your life. Knowledge without application is like a seed without soil. It cannot grow and bear fruit. Everything I've taught you must now move from your conscious understanding into your subconscious patterns. These practices are designed to reprogram your deeper mind, to establish new habits of thought, and to break the cycle of condemnation once and for all. Practice them faithfully, and you will see results. Every morning before you get out of bed, spend 5 minutes in blessing. This is how you set the tone for your entire day. Here's exactly what to do. First, while still lying in bed, take 3 deep breaths. With each exhale, release any tension, any worry, any residual judgment from yesterday. Just let it go. Second, bring to mind one person you have judged or criticized. See their face clearly. Then say, either aloud or silently, I bless this person with peace, love, and divine guidance. I release all judgment of them. I see them as God sees them, perfect, whole, and complete. Feel this blessing. Let it fill your heart. Third, think of a situation in your life that you've been condemning. Perhaps your job, your finances, your health, or a relationship. Then say, I bless this situation with divine order. I know that infinite intelligence is working through this for the highest good of all involved. I release all resistance. I accept divine harmony. Fourth, Bless yourself. Say, I bless myself with wisdom, love, and understanding. I forgive myself completely. I am a divine expression of infinite intelligence. Today I see through eyes of love, not judgment. Finally, set your intention for the day. Today I choose blessing over condemnation. Today I look for good in everyone and everything. Today I am free from judgment. This morning practice works because you're impressing your subconscious mind in the powerful moments just after waking. Your subconscious is particularly receptive in this state. You're also establishing blessing as your first conscious act of the day, which sets a pattern for all that follows. Do this every morning for 30 days without exception. Even if you don't feel like it, even if it seems mechanical, do it anyway. You're creating a new habit, a new pattern, a new way of being. And I guarantee you, within 30 days you'll see your world transform. Throughout your day, practice immediate awareness and substitution. Here's how. Keep a small notebook with you, or use your phone. Every time you catch yourself judging, whether in thought, word, or deed, make a mark. Don't write what you judged, just make a mark. At the end of the day, count your marks. But here's the crucial part. The moment you catch a judgment, immediately do 3 things. First, pause. Take a breath. Create a space between the judgment and your response. Second, acknowledge without self-condemnation. I notice I'm judging. That's interesting. No shame, no guilt, just awareness. Third, immediately substitute a blessing. I release this judgment. I choose instead to bless. Then actually bless the person or situation you were judging. For example, you're driving and someone cuts you off. Your immediate thought is, what an idiot. Stop. Breathe. Notice, I'm judging. Then substitute, I release this judgment. I bless that driver with safety and peace. May they reach their destination safely. This exercise works on multiple levels. First, it builds awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. Second, it interrupts the automatic pattern of judgment. Third, it creates a new pattern through repetition. And fourth, each successful substitution strengthens your new neural pathways and weakens the old ones. In the first week, you might have 30 or 40 marks per day. That's fine, you're just becoming aware of how much you judge. By the second week, the number should start decreasing because your awareness itself reduces the behavior. By the fourth week, you might be down to 5 or 10 marks per day. And after several months, the new pattern of blessing becomes automatic. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Every time you catch yourself and substitute, you're winning. You're breaking the pattern. You're becoming free. Every evening, right before sleep, spend 10 minutes reprogramming your subconscious. This is one of the most powerful practices you can do because the moments before sleep are when your subconscious is most receptive. Here's the complete process. First, get comfortable in bed. Close your eyes. Take several deep, slow breaths. Feel your body relaxing completely. Second, review your day, but not in the usual way. Don't replay your judgments and condemn yourself. Instead, replay moments when you blessed instead of judging. Remember times when you chose compassion over criticism. Recall instances when you saw good instead of focusing on fault. Let yourself feel good about these moments. You're reinforcing the new pattern. Third, if there were moments when you did judge, replay them differently. See yourself in that situation, responding with blessing instead of condemnation. Make the mental movie vivid. Feel how you would have felt. Hear what you would have said. This is not denying what happened. It's reprogramming your subconscious with the response you want to be habitual. Fourth, do the following visualization. Imagine yourself in tomorrow's activities, waking up, going through your day, interacting with people. See yourself responding to every situation with blessing, compassion, and love. See yourself noticing when judgment arises and immediately substituting blessing. Watch yourself move through the day free from condemnation, seeing good everywhere. Fifth, as you're drifting off to sleep, repeat this affirmation. I am free from judgment. I see good everywhere. I bless everyone I meet. I am at peace. Let these words carry you into sleep. Your subconscious will work on this impression all night long. This evening practice is incredibly powerful for several reasons. The pre-sleep state is when your subconscious is most impressionable. What you impress upon it in these moments works deeply into your psyche during sleep. By replaying events with different responses, you're actually rewriting your mental programming. You're teaching your subconscious a new way. By visualizing tomorrow with the desired responses, you're pre-programming your behavior. When similar situations arise, your subconscious will draw on these mental rehearsals, making it easier to respond with blessing rather than judgment. Do this practice every single night. Never skip it, even if you're exhausted. Take 5 minutes. This is not optional. If you're serious about transformation, this is the reprogramming that changes everything. Choose one person in your life who triggers your judgment more than anyone else. This might be a family member, a coworker, a neighbor, or even a public figure you constantly criticize. For the next 30 days, make this person your spiritual practice. Here's what you do. Every day without fail, sit quietly for 5 minutes and bless this person. Do it sincerely, from your heart. Here's a specific format. Begin by seeing them in your mind. Then say, I completely forgive you. I release all judgment, all criticism, all condemnation. I see you as a spiritual being, perfect in the eyes of God. I bless you with peace, happiness, love, and success. I know that infinite intelligence guides you to your highest good. I wish for you everything I wish for myself. Now this will be difficult at first. Your ego will resist. Your mind will say but they don't deserve it, or but they really are terrible. Do it anyway. You're not doing this for them, you're doing it for yourself. You're freeing yourself from the bondage of judgment. As you bless them daily, something miraculous happens. Usually within 2 weeks, one of 3 things occurs. First, the person's behavior toward you actually improves. Second, the person moves out of your life naturally and harmoniously. Or third, you become completely peaceful about them. Their behavior no longer triggers you. Any of these outcomes is a win. This practice works because you're going directly to the root of your judgment pattern. By blessing the person who triggers you most, you're healing the deepest wound. You're freeing the most bound energy. And as this person no longer triggers you, you'll find that you're less triggered by everyone else as well. This is intense spiritual work. But the rewards are extraordinary. Students have reported that difficult family relationships have healed. Toxic coworkers have transferred to different departments. Even their own health has improved as the stress of judgment dissolved. Remember, you're not blessing them to change them. You're blessing them to change yourself. You're impressing your subconscious with blessing instead of condemnation. And your subconscious will respond by creating a reality that matches this new impression. This practice uses the mirror principle we discussed earlier. Once a week, sit with a journal and do the following exercise. Write down 3 people or situations you've judged recently. For each one, complete these sentences. I judge this person or situation for being this quality. This triggers me because I fear that I am same quality. This judgment is showing me that I need to heal my relationship with quality in myself. I forgive myself for being or having quality. I bless myself with opposite quality. For example, I judge my coworker for being lazy. This triggers me because I fear that I am not doing enough. This judgment is showing me that I need to heal my relationship with productivity and rest in myself. I forgive myself for any laziness. I bless myself with balanced productivity and healthy rest. After writing, sit quietly and meditate on what you've discovered. Ask yourself, what is this judgment teaching me about my own consciousness? What needs to heal in me? Listen for the answer. Your inner wisdom will speak. Finally, create an affirmation that addresses the root issue. Using our example, I am perfectly productive in divine timing. I balance work and rest wisely. I am at peace with my own rhythm. This practice works because it transforms judgment from an external act into an internal exploration. Instead of condemning others, you're using your judgments as a diagnostic tool to understand yourself. You're literally turning the curse into a blessing. When you realize that your judgments reveal your own fears, wounds, and unhealed places, everything changes. You become compassionate toward yourself, and therefore toward others. You stop judging because you understand that everyone is dealing with their own consciousness, their own fears, their own growth. This weekly practice brings deep self-awareness. Over time, you'll find that you judge less because you understand yourself more. And as you heal the wounds that cause judgment, the need to judge simply dissolves. Once or twice a week, take a blessing walk. This is a walk where your sole purpose is to bless everything you see. Here's how. Go for a walk in your neighborhood, a park, or anywhere with people. As you walk, silently bless everyone and everything you encounter. See a person walking by? I bless you with peace and joy. See a house? I bless this home with love and harmony. See a car? I bless this driver with safety and ease. See a tree? I bless you and thank you for your beauty and life. See a business? I bless this business with prosperity and success. Keep blessing continuously throughout your walk. If a judgment arises, that person looks angry, or that house is ugly, immediately transform it into a blessing. I bless that person with peace. Or I bless that home with beauty. The key is to make blessing constant, natural, flowing. You're literally walking through the world showering blessings on everything. It might feel strange at first, but keep doing it. The blessing walk works because it trains your mind to see good automatically. At first, blessing requires conscious effort. But after several blessing walks, something shifts. Your default perception begins to change. You start naturally seeing good instead of looking for faults. This practice also fills you with good feeling. It's impossible to bless continuously and feel bad. The act of blessing elevates your own consciousness, raises your vibration, and creates a sense of connection and love. Students report that after regular blessing walks, they notice their entire worldview changing. The world seems friendlier. People seem kinder. Life seems easier. Nothing in the world changed. Their consciousness changed. And as their consciousness changed, their experience of the world transformed. These 6 practices are your toolkit for transformation. You don't need to do all of them every day, but choose at least 3 and practice them consistently. The morning blessing ritual and evening reprogramming session are essential. Do these daily. Add the others as you're able. Remember, change happens through repetition. Your current patterns were created through years of repetition. New patterns require consistent practice. But I promise you, if you practice these exercises faithfully for 30 days, you'll see remarkable changes. And if you continue for 90 days, your transformation will be undeniable. Your life will reflect your new consciousness, free from condemnation, filled with blessing, and manifesting the good you've been seeking all along. My friend, we've covered a great deal today, but let me distill it down to its essence, so you carry this wisdom with you always. You have within you a subconscious mind that is faithfully creating your experience based on your dominant impressions. When you condemn, when you judge harshly with attention and emotion, you impress that very quality upon your deeper mind. And by law, by absolute principle, it must manifest in your life. This is why we become what we condemn. But you also have the power to change this pattern completely. By becoming aware of your judgments. By understanding their root in fear. By substituting blessing for condemnation. And by faithfully practicing the exercises I've given you, you can reprogram your subconscious mind entirely. The world you see is a mirror of your consciousness. Change your consciousness, and you change your world. Stop condemning, start blessing, release judgment, embrace compassion, turn your attention from what you fear to what you desire, and watch as your entire life transforms. This is not wishful thinking, this is scientific truth. This is spiritual law. This is the way your mind works whether you believe it or not. But when you understand it and apply it, you become the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. Before we part, I want to give you an affirmation that will anchor this teaching in your consciousness. Repeat this often, especially when you catch yourself judging. I release all judgment and condemnation. I see through eyes of love. I bless everyone I meet and everything I encounter. I am free from the patterns of the past. My subconscious mind now creates health, harmony, prosperity, and peace. I accept this truth now. I give thanks for my transformation, and so it is. Say this with feeling, my friend. Say it with conviction. Say it until it becomes your truth. For what you claim with faith you will experience in fact. I want you to know that I believe in you. I believe in your capacity to change. I believe in your divine potential. No matter how long you've been trapped in judgment, no matter how deeply the pattern runs, you can be free. Freedom is your birthright. Peace is your natural state. Love is your true nature. The moment you decide, truly decide, to stop condemning and start blessing, your transformation begins. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. In this very moment you can choose differently. You can look at your life, your circumstances, the people around you, and you can bless instead of condemn. And that one choice repeated consistently will change everything. You are more powerful than you know. You are more loved than you realize. And you are capable of creating a life beyond your current imagination. All the tools are within you. All the power is available to you. You need only use it. Go forth and bless. Go forth and love. Go forth and create the life you were born to live. The universe is waiting to support you. Your subconscious is ready to serve you. And infinite intelligence is guiding you to your highest good. If this teaching has resonated with you, if you felt the truth of these principles, I ask you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel so you can continue receiving these teachings. There is so much more wisdom to share, and I want to continue this journey with you. Second, press the like button if this video has helped you. It helps others find these teachings when they need them most. You might be the reason someone else discovers this truth and transforms their life. And third, this is most important, leave a comment below sharing your experience. Tell me, what pattern of judgment have you been trapped in? What are you committing to change? Or if you've already been practicing these principles, share your results. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to begin their own transformation. Remember, my friend, we become what we condemn, but we also become what we bless. Choose blessing. Choose love. Choose freedom. I bless you now with peace, with wisdom, with divine guidance and protection. I see you as you truly are, a perfect spiritual being, expressing infinite intelligence, creating your world through the power of your consciousness. May you use that power wisely. May you bless freely. And may you live in the constant awareness of your divine nature. Until we meet again, this is Joseph Murphy, reminding you, your thoughts are creative. Choose them carefully. Your words have power. Speak them wisely. And your consciousness creates your reality. Transform it consciously. God bless you. And may you bless all.